What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Grab yourself a piece of paper and a pencil. Y'all know what time it is. It's time to log in. All right, everyone. Welcome back into Darts Log. Let's get this one started. It's a fun one. Today, we're going to be drawing a curly strand of hair. This is going to be a really, really cool piece with some very simple techniques that you guys could definitely knock these out in just a matter of minutes. So we're going to go ahead and start with some basic shapes here. Just literally some squiggly lines. Put in a nice little S kind of shape here of a curve. And then we're going to go ahead and just connect that with another curved line like this. Y'all see that? Let me just adjust this camera real quick. So that way it's not focusing and unfocusing. All right, cool. Gotcha. All right. So go ahead and make this shape here. And then we're going to go ahead and put in another curved C looking shape. So it's going to be like a giant C, just like that, big C. And then we're going to connect that with another C. And then this is going to be our first curl. Okay, guys, it's going to go to a nice little rounded end here, and then we have to think about where this is going to end up here. And again, another C moon shape here. And again, this is going to be a very simple task to do here. It's not going to be hard. And again, guys, I'm using that number 2 pencil. Nothing fancy here, just a number 2 pencil. Let's pick a highlighted area here, right down the middle of these curls. This is a part that we're going to kind of stay away from when we start adding our strokes for the actual hair. We're going to stay away from this area as much as we can. It is going to turn gray, but we just know that in that area, we're going to go ahead and just kind of keep it light with the strands. On the bottom area here, we're going to definitely put in some dark strands because this is where the hair curls over. So we're going to put some dark strands here. And right now, we're just putting in some basic shapes of how the hair is moving right now. We have to think of how this hair is moving. It's coming from the bottom up and over to the left. And then when it gets toward the top, it's going to then curl back up to the right. So we're coming from the right, coming down, and then down to the left. So it's going to be like a nice little long S. That's the shape of that hair in this section. And we have to pay attention to those things again, because if we don't pay attention to this shape, these arrows, right? This is how the hair is moving, coming around this way. It's going to be bending back over, around, and then coming down on this bottom area here. This is what's going to make our hair look like it has movement and look like it has shape to it. We can't just throw straight lines in here, right? This is a curl, so we have to draw like a curl. And that sounds weird, but we have to draw like a curl. And again, just putting in some lines right now. Putting in lines just to show which way the hair is moving. Okay, this one here is going to be coming around the hair and curving down. Again, leaving that dark area right up against that first layer of that curl. So just put in a couple lines here. I'm just going to tone this in just a little bit, showing that it's got a bunch of little hair strands in here. And you could already see that this is starting to come together. It's still very in the beginning stages. We're going to go ahead and add a layer of tone in here in a minute that's going to absolutely change the effect of the hair. It's going to really make it gray. Again, on the left side of this first curl here, we're going to go ahead and put some dark strands in there, thinking of how this hair is moving. It's coming from the back side, moving forward. Right? It has to have a curve to it. The hair is curving. Think like a curl. This is so weird. I don't think I would ever say that sentence in my life, but we have to think like a curl. Wow. And again, on the right side here, making it dark, and then staying away from that center area that we highlighted before. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect, because we're going to put in some gray right now that's going to kind of hide all this stuff in a second. But all we're doing is for us in our brain, showing the shape and showing how it's moving, how the hair is moving, how each strand is moving. So let's go ahead and just add in a couple more pieces here, a couple more pieces here. And again, when we get to the bottom, we're just going to put some loose hairs put in. All right, so this is the fun part coming up here, guys. We're going to make some fairy dust out of the lead. So grab yourself a lead pencil, or grab yourself a pencil, sorry, or a lead pencil. Grab yourself a pencil and a piece of sandpaper where you can actually grind down this lead. So all we're going to do is scratch the sandpaper, and we're going to make that lead dust, right? Just making some lead dust on here, putting it on the hair, and this is just going to give us that tone that we want, that gray tone, so that way later on we could use our eraser to add in all those highlights and make it look nice and fluffy and have those nice shining areas in there. And just rub it in. Again, trying to stay away from just that center area just a little bit, having a little bit of highlight showing up there, graying out this area here. And again, just remembering that there's going to be a highlighted area. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect because we are going to put in a highlighted area with our eraser. So just slightly touch this and spread some of that tone around. Just get it in there. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of it. Just move it around nicely. Again, not being too cautious with it. Blow it off. Blow it off just like that. And this is where the fun part starts happening. This is where it's going to start to come together. Just making certain areas darker. You could do this with your blender or a stiffer brush. Just making these edges a little bit darker, just so that's making it a little bit easier for us when we go back and use our pencil to add in some of those darker strokes. We're just putting in the shadows in right now, putting in those shadows. This is already coming together quite nicely. Now we go back with our pencil. This is going to be probably the most difficult part. This part right here is just putting in all these dark strands. Putting in the strands, and again, remembering the way that the hair curls, right? We're just remembering those things, putting in those dark strands, and then as we go up closer to that shine, we get a little bit lighter, right? Think about the pressure of the pencil, right? Very dark at the end there, and as we go up, it gets lighter. And then the same thing when we go to the top in a minute. We'll show you how that works. Going up here and just putting in these strands, individual strands, going to the top, coming down, dark at the top, and lighter in the middle area there. Dark at the top, right? Lighter in the middle area. Just putting in the strands, because you're going to see these. You're going to see these strands, and this is what we want people to see, is all those little individual hairs, and that's what's going to make it look realistic, is when people can see those individual hairs. Again, keeping it dark right along that edge there, the bottom left, shading in just that area, showing that tone, putting in that pressure, touching, and shaping. I think I said it right this time. Not shapening, but shaping, right? Putting in those strokes, putting in those little individual hairs there. Again, just showing the movement, right? Putting in some loose little pieces here. Right, loose little pieces, right? Because hair is not perfect. Put some loose little ends here, just coming out. Again, just touching up this area. Nice little areas, just putting in loose hairs, right? If you look real closely to people's hair, if they have it in a braid or in a curl, there's definitely a lot of loose parts to it. Again, this is also going to make your piece look more realistic when you see those little strands. Again, on this left-hand side of this first curl here, keep it dark. Again, putting in those strands, thinking of the curl, thinking of how this thing is moving. Put in those strands. They don't have to be perfect. They just have to be strands of hair. Put in individual strands of hair. There's a lot of them. Just keep putting it in. Don't worry about it. Just keep it in the same motion and keep it in the same direction. And just make sure you're paying attention to the tone. Put in some more loose ones here. More loose ones there, right? Just putting in those loose little things there. All right, now we're going to put in some loose ones on this left side here. Again, just darkening this area. Bottom, keep it dark. And then we're going to get to a light area. So keep it dark in this little area right here, coming down to a lighter area. And again, loose pieces of hair, just little loose ones here and there. Coming down, don't have to be perfect. Hair's not perfect. Right, we have a lot of loose strands. Just put in the strands, putting in the hair. Super fun parts coming up here when we're going to be using our eraser to add the highlights. That's going to be super fun. And again, guys, remember, this electrical eraser is where it's at. Get yourself one. Let's sharpen it so we get some nice, clean white lines and thin white lines. That's all we want to see is thin white lines. This is how we're going to get the highlight in here. Let's put in a little bit of gray area, just a little bit more toning, because we're going to add some white strands in here that we want them to pop out. We want them to pop out. So just rub it with your brush. All right, let's have some fun with this electrical eraser. And all we're doing, literally in the middle where we had that highlight at, putting in a nice little white edge there, right? Little white edge. And again, moving in the same direction as all the other hair. We're going to be putting in this highlight. Putting in the highlight. No problem. Putting in the highlight. No problem. It's easy work. It's easy work. And all we have to do is pay attention to the movement of the hair, keeping it the exact same way. Keeping it the exact same way. Pay attention to the strokes of the hair. And I promise you guys are going to make it look so beautiful. Adding just a little bit of loose strands here with the highlighter, sorry, not the highlighter. I keep saying that all the time. It's a eraser. Just putting in those nice little highlights in there with our eraser. Just putting a couple little strokes here and there just to see that there's individual strands. Putting in that nice little edge there. Very, very simple for that little curl. All right, same thing with this bottom area. Putting in, again, there's some loose little pieces of hair here. And we're going to do the same exact thing with the eraser in this area here. Again, paying attention to this curve, right? We want this highlight to mimic the curve here. So there's a light that's shining here that's picking up on these hairs and these individual strands. Draw them in there, right? Again, doesn't need to be perfect, but it just needs to show that there's some type of indication of light that is hitting these strands of hair. Yours doesn't have to be every single strand of hair like this, right? It's little pieces here and there that gets shown up. And again, on this bottom piece, doing the exact same thing. Just some hairs right on this little area here. Putting in these highlights. Super, super easy, fun piece to do. And then you could even come back and add some dark areas if you want to. All right, guys. You guys finished the curly hair tutorial. Check out part 2 coming up. You guys did it in under 13 minutes. All right, guys, it's time to log off.